Hey there, it's Lisa Appia, Certified Career and Resume Strategist. Welcome back to the channel. If you are here for the first time, thanks for being here. Today we're talking about how to thrive in your career as an introvert. As an introvert myself, I initially thought that being an introvert was a huge hindrance to my career progress. I would see people who would basically just be more vocal and get more attention, which led to their career progression. And it would frustrate me because I was there doing the work. I was the person that was behind the scenes getting things done, but my hard work wasn't as valued as their loud voices, unfortunately. And so I had to find strategies and ways that would enable me to thrive in my career as an introvert. I was able to land 5 promotions in less than 8 years using some of these strategies, and now I teach many of these strategies to my clients who have had amazing success in their career progression because of these strategies. The first thing we want to establish is that being an introvert is not a hindrance to your career. You may do things differently, but it doesn't mean that you are doing them wrongly. Once you realize that there is strength in being an introvert, then you can leverage the strengths that you have to succeed in your career. And obviously every position is different, so you need to be able to tweak and adjust these strategies to meet your schedule, to meet your work environment, and to meet the requirements of your job. The first strength that many introverts have is listening. And I often tell my clients, lead by listening. Listening skills are extremely important in the workplace because you may notice certain gaps that other people did not notice or chose to ignore, and by calling them out, you can bring great results to your organization. So leading by listening, leveraging your listening skills will enable you to actively engage in meetings, ask thoughtful questions, and also provide valuable insight based on your observations. So don't neglect the power that you have in being a good listener. The second thing is that you want to schedule breaks and time to recharge. As an introvert, you know this already. It's not that you don't like people. It's just that being in social settings like meetings or at networking events is often very draining. And so knowing this ahead of time, what you want to do is intentionally schedule times for you to recharge so that you can continue the rest of the activities or responsibilities that you need to do. For example, if you have a presentation on a certain day, make sure that you have some time before the presentation so that you can get yourself together for the presentation, and then time scheduled after the presentation to allow you to recharge, get your thoughts together, recoup before you continue with the rest of the things you need to do. You may decide to do a meeting-free day. Maybe your schedule doesn't allow you to take a whole day without meetings, but maybe you'll do a morning during the week that there are no meetings, and this allows you to practice deep thinking and really focusing on what you need to do in the work ahead. So you need to be more strategic with the way that you manage your schedule as an introvert, and it'll help you succeed in the long run. For me, back-to-back meetings are a no-no, and often, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when everyone was getting used to Zoom or Teams, everything was just scheduled almost back to back, and I was like, it's not because we're sitting behind a computer that we don't need a break to recharge. So I intentionally had to schedule time in my calendar, block off time to know that I will not be doing 3 or 4 back-to-back meetings because it just doesn't work for me. By the time I get to that 3rd or 4th meeting, I'm not as productive and I'm not contributing to my best. So if you are a person who's also like that, intentionally block off time in your calendar so that when you are with people or when you are participating in meetings, you can show up as your best self. Point number 3 in terms of thriving at work as an introvert is that you need to set boundaries. And this goes very well with point number 2, that was about managing your schedule. But in this third point, you need to really be intentional about setting the right boundaries that will allow you to protect your energy as an introvert, so that ultimately you can produce the best results for the company or organization you work for. So what does setting boundaries look like? It can look like setting clear expectations in terms of what you can produce or other responsibilities that you have that you need to be able to manage. It can look like knowing your limits or unplugging from work, and that's a big one. Knowing once you've reached the point where you need to stop and take a break is really important. Setting boundaries can also look like prioritizing your time and being able to say no, and that's a big one. As someone who was a people pleaser, saying no was very challenging for me. But I realized that saying yes all the time meant that I'm saying no to something else, and sometimes things that were really important I was saying no to by saying yes to other things. And so this is all about being able to prioritize your time. Sometimes you have to say no. The fourth point is you want to be able to take on work that aligns with your strengths and that will enable you to thrive and succeed as an introvert. So what do I mean by that? If you are someone who's looking to progress in their career, you need to be intentional about the kind of work that you take on. You can't be the person who just takes on any task or responsibility that comes your way. You want to make sure that the responsibilities that you're saying yes to are the ones that align with your zone of genius, that align with your way of thinking and your ways of doing things, but also that enable you to do work that aligns with the company's mandate. You don't want to be the person who's always caught organizing the social event or who's doing all the office housework. And it does happen when you, especially if you are someone who is a yes person, you may end up with all these responsibilities that don't really align with the mandate of your company or the work that you're actually supposed to be doing. And often those tasks don't get recognized at the end of the year when we're doing performance reviews or other things like that. So be strategic about what responsibilities you take on. And this is all going to the point of being able to manage your energy properly so that you can do your best work. The next point is that you want to network with purpose. Networking is a huge part of what we do as professionals because we know that people hire people. The more people you are exposed to who are the right stakeholders that can help you with your career progression, the better it is for you. And so that's why meeting new people, interacting with decision makers is key to career progression. But as an introvert, that can be a huge hindrance. So networking with purpose is always going to be the best thing that you want to do. Meaning that you don't just show up at a networking event. That can be extremely draining, right? What you want to do is you want to have a plan before you show up. When you go to the networking event, tell yourself that in this event, I'm going to speak to 5 people. Once I've spoken to my 5 people, I'm done for the day and I will leave the event with grace. Set an intention, and once you've met that intention, you know that you can then move on to something else. Being purposeful in your networking also means finding different ways that you can attract people to you as opposed to having to go to them. And I often do this by doing little things that make a big difference. For example, the outfit that I'm going to wear for a networking event. I always make sure I wear something that's a bright color, something that will catch people's attention so that they can come towards me and say things like, I love your outfit, or I love the shirt that you're wearing. That little statement enables us to begin a conversation, which for me makes things so much easier because as an introvert, it's so much easier for me to sustain a conversation as opposed to starting one. So by someone approaching me that way, it makes things so much easier. And then another thing when it comes to networking purposefully is that you want to pay attention to the layout of the room. For example, you go to a networking event, you don't want to stay at the perimeters of the room. That's often where people are dropping their coats, or people are going to the washroom, or there's a lot of movement happening at the perimeters of a room. What you want to do is focus on the center. That's often where people are the most engaged and where people are ready to actually network and actually talk. This will help you so much because you already know that the people who are at the center of the room, that's where the action is happening. So that's where you want to be. And it makes it a lot easier to achieve your goal that way of, let's say you want to talk to 3, 4, 5 people and then leave once your goal is achieved. So those are some of the ways that you can network purposefully. If you are someone who is still trying to uncover what strengths you have that you can use as an introvert to be able to market them for success, I have a quiz called the Introvert at Work quiz. You can look at the description and just click on the link to be able to take the quiz. It's a short quiz that will help you understand what are your most marketable skills and then how to leverage them in the workplace. I talk about how you leverage them on your resume, in interviews, and also to stand out in your career generally. So for my introverts, check out the Introvert at Work quiz because you'll get so much information on how to make these strategies a reality in your career. And the last tip is leverage your self-awareness. Introverts are often very self-aware and very introspective. And these are all strengths that you can leverage in the workplace for your own professional development and to be able to achieve greater results as you're looking to move up in your career. So that awareness of who you are, of what you have to offer, and also of how you see yourself in the world is extremely important. And ultimately what you want to do is take that self-awareness and see how you can align it with the goals and the mandate of your organization. A company ultimately, always when they're trying to hire you or once they've hired you, in their head, they're just thinking what's in it for them. What are they going to receive as a benefit of you being an employee at that company? And so that self-awareness that you have about yourself, about your skills, about your strengths is what you want to bring to the table and let them know that me being here is bringing this value to the company. And then in addition to knowing it, you need to articulate it. So self-promotion is quite important in the workplace. So being able to articulate it in meetings, being able to articulate it in your performance reviews, being able to articulate it when you're with your peers. These are the ways that you're going to be able to stand out in your career. If you're someone who's not very comfortable speaking up at work, I do have another video that I'm sharing right here where I share tips on how to speak up at work, and this will also help you when it comes to your self-promotion. So I'll see you in that video. Take care.